Okay, hey guys, my name's Hap, and this is something a little bit different. I was planning to do this via my laptop so that we could have some decent semblance of audio and video quality, but that is clearly not going to happen. So, this is basically a quick video on how to make a decent thumbnail that actually conveys what the video is about. Now, why have I decided to make this video? Well, that's pretty simple. I have been watching Droodles' videos for quite some time until recently, and since then I have decided to take a look at his thumbnails because, well, a lot of them weren't exactly good back in the day, and they still aren't exactly good now. I have looked at his video with the X5 boosters for the EXP, and it is downright terrible. If I have to be honest, Droodles' thumbnail on that video is absolutely horrendous, and I will teach you how to make a decent thumbnail. Some of them I am still experimenting with a lot of them, but the one in the top left for the spring season tier 6 tournament that I had yesterday is actually a pretty decent example. So we are going to take a simple image, and we are going to use some of those images that I have downloaded in the past. So we are gonna quickly go to the download folder, and we are going to pick this Centurion 7, because I haven't really used it in a thumbnail. Now, as for the resolution, I have still not talked about this. This is Adobase Spark. This is what I use for making thumbnails because it is extremely simple. It is extremely concise. Anybody can make a great looking thumbnail with this. Check it out. It's on iOS and Android as well. I absolutely recommend it. But we're just gonna quickly pick the YouTube thumbnail. In case you don't know what the YouTube thumbnail resolution is, it's 1280 by 720. It's basically a normal HD resolution. And we are gonna quickly remove the watermark in the corner so that we have some semblance of decent shapes, and we are going to quickly delete the text. What you want with a thumbnail like this, especially in Spark, is to start with a blank canvas. If you're gonna be experimenting with thumbnails a lot like I do, you really need this sort of peace and quiet while you are working with this. So, as I have already mentioned a few times, with streams, I usually do some sort of a border text, or just a border in general. So we are going to set the border on 10, and we are going to set the border on white. Now that already got us a lot further than what we've expected. Now we're going to quickly enhance the image, and we're going to saturate it. With some images, saturation is actually a terrible idea, especially with this one, so I would recommend toning the saturation down a little. So we're gonna be putting it to 19. If you have some nice vibrant colors in the image and not something like this, then saturation is actually incredibly useful, and it makes the image far more lively than how it really is. And that's basically it, what you need to do with the base image itself. You can of course adjust it around like this, so that you can put it in a perfect position. Maybe you want text on the left, maybe you want text on the right, but here we go with the basic rule of a 3x3 grid. Now imagine this image, imagine it with the borderlines as well. Now divide that into a 3x3 grid, so just 3 columns, 3 rows. In the middle one of those 9, you want the focal point of the video. You want that part of the thumbnail to be what the video is about. So let's say that we want to make a Centurion video. So we are gonna keep the little Centi here in the middle. Easy enough. Now we need to clarify this. So we are going to get the text, and we are going to type Centurion 7 and 1. Easy. Now, what you also really need to do is to pick a fitting text format. This is hardly fitting for a thumbnail. Now, this is another one of issues I have with Droodles, and that is that his font is not exactly ideal. It is also sometimes awfully off-center. You can see this in the 3rd edition of the Spring Season tournaments. It is currently unlisted, but it is available on Wargaming's site. He will be streaming it in my time at around 1 in the morning, so I probably won't be watching it. But, as going back to the point, his font isn't exactly great, so what you want to do with this, in this case, is quickly remove the shape and set the color to something that is contrasting wildly with the background so that it is easy to see. If you still want to do something with it, I recommend that you put this shading effect and that you edit the colors. Now, with some fonts, it just will refuse to work, which is just hilarious, but hey, what can you do? And as a font, bam, easy. You have some decent shading, but what is the most important part is the font, because it basically makes it look far, far more appealing. I'm sorry if I'm beating around the bush a while. I am not doing this with a script, as I do all of my other videos. But the font also should be really centered, symmetrical. It shouldn't feel out of place. That is also one of those issues that I have with Droodles' thumbnails. Sometimes it just feels downright out of place. Thankfully, he does improve them over time, and he has changed his font from the quite terrible Impact to something a bit more acceptable. So, as a color, there we go, double. Now, what you want is something like this. Nice. And we are going to type review, and we are going to put that in the bottom part. Now we just need to scale it properly. You can also use the size to just match the size like that, easy. Now, you might have noticed these purple-blue lines a bit. The blue line means it is symmetrical with the text above it. The purple line means it is in center with the image itself. The blue line also does that with other elements such as icons and other images and so on. But if you do this, you already have a decently appealing thumbnail. Granted, it is very simple, but I highly recommend you start working on from there. However, do not clutter that. I can also give you a very quick example of how to not clutter an image. So we are going to add an image, and I believe I have a nice Blitz logo somewhere around in my Spark Post folder. There we go. This is on a white background, which means it is transparent. However, you might notice that it is black. You also need these elements to be visible. So, how do you make it visible? Easy. You don't do that. I'm sorry for the vibrations. I forgot to turn the mode off. What you want to do is you just put some sort of a background behind it. Easy. So we're just gonna put up a triangle with a white color so that it is consistent with the background, and we are going to set the order behind it. And now we are just gonna simply rotate it. I should have just taken just a normal triangle so I wouldn't have to bother with this. See? Because then you can have stuff like this happen to you. Now, this triangle is not ideal, but it already gives the thumbnail some charm. So basically what I am telling you is to keep the 3x3 grid rule in mind, keep it simple, but if you want to give those thumbnails some identity, feel free to experiment, but don't overdo it. And that is basically all that I have been trying to tell you. I have also tried to try and fix Droodles' thumbnail a little bit, because it also has some things that are just, well, off-putting, let's say. For example, his grammar. His grammar, that's another thing I highly, highly recommend you do. Double check the thumbnail, or even triple check it, quadruple check it, whatever, before you go with it and set it on your video. You have to make sure that it is correct, so you can save yourself some embarrassment. Unfortunately, that is clearly not what Droodles has been doing with his spring season tournaments. It says lifetime on the bottom, not exactly an ideal choice of word. I would just say live tournament. Live at the top, tournament at the bottom, or just swap that around, make the tournament part more accented, which is what he thankfully did. Now, back to the point. I have tried to recreate it at first, and I did not have access to the Blitz icons for the X5 boosters, so I just had to make do and open and just put in some file icons. However, if we take a look at it, you can clearly see that there are many things wrong with Droodles' style of thumbnails. Now, if you look at this thumbnail, think of the focal point. What is the part that you will focus the most on? In this thumbnail, in my personal opinion, I can't say I am able to focus on a single part of it. Remember the 3x3 grid rule? Well, that clearly doesn't apply here. What are you supposed to look at? Are you supposed to look at the tank, or are you supposed to look at the arrow? Personally, I think that we can still fix this a tiny bit. So we're going to delete the arrow. We are going to delete the win rates, because, well, quite frankly, they are oversaturating the thumbnail. And what we really just need is some simple, strong text that tells you what the video is about. So X5 experience makes you lose? Sure, absolutely. We're going to delete this part, we're going to delete this part, and we're also going to delete this icon, because you really only need one of them. And we are going to scale it down a little bit. There we go. It is already much cleaner, and it is also very well centered. If you look at Droodles' thumbnail, one part of the X5 experience is a little bit more angled to the right, which is not exactly ideal. You want your thumbnail to also be decently appealing to the eye, because a person usually clicks on the video based on what kind of a thumbnail it has. Some people bother a whole lot with their thumbnails, some people don't do anything with them. I used to not do anything with them, and, well, that was a terrible idea. You really need to make sure that those thumbnails are proper, are legit, and that they are very nice to look at. So, here we already see a pretty decent result. This thumbnail isn't good by any stretch, but I believe it is far more competent than the thumbnail that Droodles has made. So, in conclusion, I highly recommend that you check out Adobe Spark, try out some of the thumbnails yourself, and just keep working with them until you make a thumbnail set that you are very comfortable with and that just tells the point of the video outright. Anyways, that has been it. My name is Hap, and I'll see you all later.